Alright guys and girls, this is a long playing review for Jailbreak on the AMSTRAD CPC, released by Konami themselves in 1986, although it looks like the Amstrad version arrived in early 1987. And this is of course a coin-op license and conversion, but this was a time when Konami decided to go it alone and do their own ports of their own games, rather than license them to the big guns like Ocean and US Gold, which was very unusual at the time, especially for a Japanese coin-op company. And it was with decidedly mixed results. Okay, let's be honest, all of them were pretty rubbish, from Nemesis, Salamander, Jackal to this one. Well, we'll find out very shortly. This was Konami's first attempt to go it alone with Jailbreak. And I had a little chat with the coder of this game, Neil Dodwell, and I asked him about the whole Konami porting their own game situation, and he said he worked for a company in Portsmouth called Catalyst Coders, who basically pimped their coders out for various coding jobs. And apparently the Konami office was run by just 2 people in Clapham, and he got the impression they just negotiated some deal to use the name and convert arcade games to home computers, and he's not sure exactly how they managed that, and he thinks it was all a bit of a shambles, and maybe it was just all a little bit of a con job. So there's probably some interesting story there for another day. Was it a couple of chances that took advantage of the poor Japanese here? Who knows? But it looks like the operation did eventually expand. By the release of this game, the Konami Software Club has been established in Devon somewhere, with a larger team of people and a rather bizarre monthly newsletter doing the rounds with a Konami helpline number to call. Even so, during this period, some Konami game licenses still went to Ocean, like Gryzor and Combat School, before games like Salamander and Jackal got released by Konami themselves. So it looks like they'd already lost faith in the Konami team to deliver the goods. And it's no wonder, just look at how awful Nemesis and Jackal and Salamander were. Anyway, enough about that, let's get back to Jailbreak. This is of course an arcade coin-op license, and we'll take a look at the arcade version here now, just for comparison reasons. So we can compare it to the Amstrad version coming up very shortly. And yeah, this was released by Konami in the arcades in 1986. And yeah, quite obviously there's a jailbreak. And over 5 stages as a cop, you've got to reach the prison to free the warden, rescuing hostages along the way. Oh, that little kid there. And they will give you a weapon power-up, or up to 2 weapons. Now you've got the 2 extra weapons there. Can't get any more though. And these weapons are needed to defeat certain enemies or obstacles in your path. And the second weapon there will blow up barrels. And then we'll reveal some secrets there as well. And there are other secrets to find, such as on the first level. If you rescue 4 hostages in a row, then use the 3rd weapon, the tear gas, to shoot a convict in the window there. Did you see that there, boys and girls? You get to see a naked lady with bare breasts. Quite an unusual sight, really, for a mainstream arcade coin-op. Oh, there you go. The second weapon there is used to destroy the escaped convicts in a stolen rubbish truck there, or dumper truck, or whatever you want to call it. Trash van. There you go. And I just got wrecked there. Yeah. So, quite a secret to be found there. That's quite an unusual thing. So yeah, actually, this game is actually quite, well, relatively advanced for its time, with its decent sounding speech and smooth scrolling and sprite movement for 1985-86, and it's quite a step up from Green Beret, the previous game from Konami. Although I don't think Jailbreak was anywhere near as popular as Green Beret. Although I thought this was quite a well-known game, but apparently not. There isn't even a Wikipedia entry for Jailbreak. Probably because it didn't get ported to anything beyond the Amstrad CPC and Commodore 64, and that was just in Europe. God knows if the Commodore 64 version made it even to America. There wasn't even a Nintendo Entertainment System port. There was supposed to be an MSX port of the game, but that didn't even materialise. It was even there's even instructions for the MSX version in the game manual. It got as far as that, but sadly didn't appear. So I've no idea how well this sold into arcades at the time, how well it ranked in terms of like sales and how popular it was in the arcades at the time. It possibly didn't do as well as Konami hoped, I guess. And I think they reused the same game engine for Iron Horse, which is sort of a Western-themed game set on a train. I think that did even less well than this one. And there you go, that is the end of the level there. Kind of a commando style, reach the end, spawn loads of enemies at you, and then you can move on to the next level. So 5 stages, and now we're on sort of the park stage here. Just show you a little bit of this level here. Nice bit of greenery, and it's just more of the same, really. And there you go. This is the arcade version, so pay attention to the details here. And now we're going to see how the Amstrad version fares and compares. And just one more time, here's the box art for Jailbreak. This time the cassette version. And apparently these are quite the collector's items now, these Konami releases. And go for quite a high price on eBay. So there you go. And also a weird kind of custom loading system here. If you type run jail, it kind of like sort of resets the Amstrad and Autotype's bar CPM. And the PMS loading system. Weird. Quite unusual. Quite a nice loading screen here and some sampled speech coming up. The warden has been taken hostage. Free him no matter what the cost. Very nice. And we've got some credits here as well. So this is credited as the scroll and sprite routines by Mike Croucher and programmed by Neil Dodwell. So those of you who've been following the channel recently, that name may be familiar to you because Neil was the guy behind the Rex conversion to the Amstrad, which we recently did a video on. And well, as mentioned earlier, I chatted to Neil about Jailbreak, and he informs me that Jailbreak had already been mostly written by Mike Croucher, and that it just needed finishing off for release. And he doesn't know why Mike never finished it, but it was basically complete, but horrendously buggy when Neil got hold of it. And he was given a couple of weeks to try and fix it all, so it was all very, very rushed. Hence why the game, which you'll see shortly, does feel very rather unfinished, shall we say. And we don't get any kind of, sure, spoil it now, ending and all that. Anyway, Neil, as mentioned earlier, worked for a company in Portsmouth called Catalyst Coders, who hired him out and other coders for various coding jobs and fixing things. As for Michael Croucher, you'll find he also did Synapse and Anarchy for Hewson and Tarzan for Martech, but that's about it on the Amstrad. The music here was apparently by David Whittaker and is excellent, but it's the only time you'll hear it. Lastly, the graphics, apart from the sprites, were done by Stuart Rucroft, whose other credits include Nemesis and Salamander for Konami, and a few other minor titles elsewhere. And there's Mark Jones doing the sprites, who later went on to work at Ocean. You can also find his work on other Amstrad games like Tarzan, Synapse and Arkanoid. Anyway, let's get the game started off. And off we go! And, well, first impressions. It's colourful. We've got a much more squished screen than the arcade version. A much more smaller screen. and larger sprites, it feels like. And we're only... Oh, there's a hostage to rescue. We do get the weapons, though. We do get the weapons. Hit the space bar to change between the weapons. And there's another hostage to rescue. And there we go. 3 weapons. But we don't get any of the convicts in the windows to shoot. So sadly, no naked ladies and bare breasts to look at in the Amstrad version. Scrolling is a little bit on the juddery side. It's passable. It's passable. Nice animation on the legs, at least, of the main sprite. And the sprites seem to move about okay. But first impressions for most people won't be very, very good because this game is ridiculously hard and I'm making it look very, very easy here. Most people will be reaching for the off switch within seconds, if not minutes, depending on your tolerance and patience. I had to sort of practice this over and over and work out a method of trying to cope with the game and get anywhere in it and work out how to progress in it. And there is a method. And the method is, for those of you that are struggling with this game and die within seconds of starting it up, which is for probably 99% of you. Here's the thing. Here's my top tips. First of all, stick to the top third of the screen. Don't go right to the very top because you often get hostages spawning at the top there, like the little kids waving their arms about. This is so you can move down and under the enemy's bullets. Enemies fire their guns quite high up. As you can see, their guns are like sort of just below their chins, and that's where they fire their bullets, right? And the hitboxes on your player sprite and their sprites is basically the upper part of their torso or your torso, okay? So when the bullets are coming towards you, it's much easier to move down and under their bullets, right? Oh, we had to switch weapons here because these guys at the top of the screen that are kneeling down and shooting down the screen can only be destroyed by the third weapon, which I think is the gas canister weapon or whatever you call it. They're the only enemies that they're the only convicts that need to be killed by a certain weapon. The second weapon there you need to use on the vehicles that will appear, I think, on the next stage or the stage after. So those are my top tips. Stick to the top third of the screen, but not to the very top of the screen, so you can move down and under the enemy's fire. Remember, the hitbox on yourself and the enemies is like the top third of the sprite, i.e. the torso. So you can move down and under. And my third tip is, whenever you can, fire behind you. So you see there, I'm turning around and shooting behind me as much as I can. So once you move down, if you have to move down to the bottom of the screen, try and get yourself back up the top as much as you can. So move down and under. Firing behind as much as I can. There. So I'm actually sort of breaking some of my rules here a little bit. Firing behind there, firing behind. Move to the top of the screen, down and under. Firing behind whenever I can. Down and under. Move to the top again. Down and under. Oh, that was close. That was very, very close there. Firing behind. Firing behind. Oh, yes. And also, a bit like the Green Beret thing, I think there's like a limit of the number of enemy sprites on screen. I think there can only be about a maximum of 3 enemy sprites on screen at a time. Or 3 sprites generally. That's not a player sprite. So you can abuse that. And so you don't have to be always constantly firing from behind if there's already sort of 3 enemy sprites on the screen. So you can relax for a little bit if there's already 2 or 3 sprites running off. Oh, nearly shot a hostage there. So one thing is, don't be firing your weapon away like a mad thing, because you might shoot a hostage. You could do that if you really wanted to, but I'm trying to do a run here where I don't kill any hostages. So you're going to need some of your weapons later on to get past certain sections. So if you end up shooting a hostage, you lose your weapons you've accumulated. You lose all your weapons. And there'll be certain sections where you will need your weapons to destroy, i.e. those enemies that need that gas canister weapon, that are like shooting down, kneeling down, shooting down, vertically down the screen. They can't be killed by the gun and the bullets. Meaning if you haven't got that 3rd weapon, they can't be killed and you can't get past them, and you will lose a life. There's no way of getting past them. So oh, here's the first. here's the rubbish truck moving very, very slowly at you. Very crudely done. At least they put it in the game, even if it looks really, really quite crap. I sort of give the coders credit here in that they've tried to be quite faithful to the arcade version here. It's all a bit crude and a bit crap, but they've tried, I think. And I think with a bit more care, time and effort, maybe we might have had a decent arcade conversion. But the big major problem here is that we can't shoot diagonally. That is the major issue. We've just reached the end of stage 2 of 5 here. It's like the commando thing now. They're going to spawn lots of enemies at you. All you do is just spam left and right shooting, spam left and right shooting, back and forth, and there you go. So, oh god, this looks rather horrible here. Yeah. In fact, I don't know why. Oh, there's a naked blue Smurf lady. Actually, I don't know why they didn't do like a screen split and just scroll like the top third of the screen and keep the bottom 2/3 like a solid grey colour or white colour for this level or something. And they didn't need to scroll that bottom section. Oh, look, there's those guys there that need to be killed by the gas things. The 3rd weapon. See, if you hadn't have got the hostages rescued there, you would have been absolutely stuck on this level. Sometimes you only get 1 hostage spawn if you haven't got any weapons, and that would have made that section there completely impassable, and you would have died, which can happen sometimes on this stage 3. So yeah, I don't know why they didn't use a screen split there. It would have probably sped up the game significantly, both on sprite movement and just game speed generally. So bit of a strange decision there, and we've got a really garish looking floor. Yeah. What else to mention here? Well, I think we should probably talk about the other versions of the game of Jailbreak. Well, there was only 2 other conversions. Firstly, let's talk about the ZX Spectrum version. Well, if you thought the Amstrad version wasn't good and too tough, well, check out the Specky one. It has really rough scrolling and is much harder than the CPC port. I had trouble progressing more than a few meters on the first level. Although I suspect with a bit of practice of figuring out the mechanics, like I did on the Amstrad one, maybe it's not so bad, but I do think the Specky one is probably harder. But I think the Amstrad got the better port here, believe it or not. And then we move on to the Commodore 64. Unbelievable. Honestly, my jaw hit the floor when I first played this. It's shockingly bad. Quite possibly the worst Commodore 64 arcade conversion I've ever played. It makes LA SWAT look good. Graphically, it's okay, but the gameplay is just absolutely appalling. Enemies come on the screen and all of them start immediately firing at you. And as they get close enough, they just stop and just fire off a hail of bullets that you just simply can't pass by. So you just have to shoot every single enemy before they get too close, like literally as they appear on the screen. Otherwise, you're dead. Like, what kind of game design is that? And then there's the bad hit detection issues. I mean, every single Commodore magazine hated it. The high score it received was 30% in Zap, and that was generous. Just, oh my god. Anyway, and then there was the MSX version, which was announced. It even had instructions in the manual for it printed, but sadly that never materialised. And that was it for Jailbreak. Wow. As for magazine reviews, well, this was reviewed in the February 1987 issue 17 of Amstrad Action magazine. They thought it was boring, unoriginal, too hard and infuriating, and they hoped Konami had better games to come, as this was the first one from Konami themselves. Oh dear. They had Nemesis, Salamander and Jackal to look forward to, and they were far worse than Jailbreak, sadly. Anyway, they rated the graphics 68%, Sonics 62%, grab factor 70%, stain power 61%, with an overall AA rating of 65%. Wow. As for my review, aside from not being able to move and shoot diagonally, that thing, which the other two versions also don't have, by the way, Speccy and Commodore 64, I have to say it is relatively faithful to the arcade, and it's sadly the best version of the three, which isn't saying much. But I mean, the sprites are either too large or the playing area too small, making it far too claustrophobic to play in, making for a very frustrating initial experience that will have most people reaching for the off switch within minutes. Oh, we're on the last level here. But if you persevere and figure out how to progress like I have, you may find some value here, especially if you like a run and gun game like I do, and have some passion and nostalgia for the 80s arcade coin-ops, especially Konami ones. Before doing this long play, I thought this was bloody awful, but I kind of started to like it a bit, but only a bit. So I will give this a 6 out of 10, just sneaking into a 61% score, but only just. I think there are far worse games out there, but it was clearly rushed and feels rather unfinished, which you'll see from this level. This is the final level, guys, and we're going there. We've just got to reach the warden and rescue the prison warden at the end of the level. You just got to go up to him and touch him, and that is the end of the game. In fact, this level and the last level actually was pretty easy, actually. The levels seem to get easier as you go along, actually, rather strangely. There's actually not much happening here. Okay, we're very close to the end here. What's going on? Why are... Okay, finally spawning some enemies there. Remember, keep shooting backwards whenever you can. I seem to have forgotten my own top tips. Yeah, it's like a free sprite limit on screen. Oh, there's the warden. Just got to go up to him and touch him. Might as well rescue the hostage there quickly. There you go. The game is won. And you just get a ready message. And of course it bloody loops, doesn't it? We don't even get a congratulations message. No, nothing. It just loops and says stage 6. So we'll leave it there, guys. We're not going to like loop it like twice just to see what happens. We know it's just going to loop infinitely. We're not going to get a congratulations game complete after 2 loops, 3 loops or whatever. it's just going to loop forever and ever. So there you go, guys. That was Jailbreak on the Amstrad CPC. Not the worst arcade conversion we've ever seen. Probably the best of the Konami, their own Konami ports to the Amstrad. I think it's better than Nemesis, Salamander, and Jackal. Perhaps not as bad as we thought it was. Once you figure out the mechanics of the game, once you understand where the hitboxes are and how to avoid the bullets, remember to shoot backwards and all that kind of stuff. But even so, you would hate this game when you first played it. Persevere, maybe practice with it with my tips. You might start to like it a little bit, but it's not a game I would probably want to return to after doing this long play. So there you go, guys. 6 out of 10, 61% from me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What would you rate this game? Have I been too generous with it? Have I got Stockholm Syndrome or something like that? Who knows? Maybe I'm blinded by nostalgia because I quite liked the arcade original. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. See you soon. And goodbye. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.